Okay, with this podcast, I'm going to try something a little bit different since it doesn't seem like I can write better than a kindergartner with a pen. I'm going to try typing some notes up here. We got done talking about coefficients and leading coefficients. First thing I'm going to have to do, though, before I begin typing is I'm going to put down another trinomial, and then we're going to talk about what some of the terms mean. So in my trinomial here, if I can grab a pen, I got to move this first. Okay, let's take 2x squared minus x minus 6 again. Okay, if that is my trinomial, each term has a different degree. The constant term doesn't have a variable, so it has a degree of 0. This term has a degree of 1. The reason it has a degree of 1 is because the exponent power is 1. It's not shown there, but it is 1. This one has a degree of 2. Each one of these terms can be given a specific name. The 2x squared term, for instance. Let's see if I can type this up here rather than write it. It might not. Oh, there we go. The 2x squared term is actually called a quadratic term. The quadratic term, if I can now back to the pen, the quadratic term is always something to the second power. And this is called a quadratic polynomial because its highest degree is a quadratic. The term next to the quadratic term here, which has a power of 1, can be called a linear term. So let me get back to the typing here, and we will call that one a linear term. And since I'm still typing, we already said the last value is a constant. Okay, so back to the pen. Here's our linear term. Here's our constant term. So when I'm using those vocabulary terms, you now know what we're talking about. Quadratic terms are ones that have variables with an exponent power of 2. Linear terms are ones where the variable has an exponent power of 1. And constant terms are basically just numbers. There's no variable, there's no exponent on the variable. Okay? And again, coefficient 2, coefficient -1, constant. Okay? Leading coefficient is 2. The next podcast is actually going to get into how we can take this trinomial and factor it, turn it back into the product of two different binomials. So I'm going to stop this podcast for now, and then we're going to look at factoring a trinomial where the leading coefficient is 1. So we're not going to factor this trinomial today because the leading coefficient is 2. We're going to look at one where the leading coefficient is 1.